This is the 24th lesson in a big series where I have been teaching deep dive tutorials on the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players. There's a link to a playlist of this entire series in the description. The song we are learning today is On Green Dolphin Street. If you are here to just learn the chords or just learn the melody, or you're just looking for the tab for On Green Dolphin Street, just use the timestamp links in the description to go to the section that you are looking for. Here's what we're going to cover in this lesson. I'll tell you about the song. I'll play the melody with tab on the screen so you can follow along. I'll show you two versions of the chords that you can play. I will teach you the scales that you can use to improvise over this song, all with demonstrations and scale diagrams on the screen. And every lesson in this series includes a unique piece of advice for how to truly internalize a jazz standard on the guitar, so I will share that. And lastly, I'll give you a guitar listening recommendation for this song. You can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter. There's a link in the top of the description to join. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression lead sheet, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music because that's not in the public domain, but you can easily learn the melody from this video. Just use the link in the top of the description to join and to support and to get all of those extra resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. On Green Dolphin Street was composed by Polish film composer Bronislaw Kaper in 1947 for the MGM film titled Green Dolphin Street, which was based on the 1944 novel by Elizabeth Gouge. The lyrics were written by Ned Washington, and while the song was introduced in 1947, it did not become widely recognized as a jazz standard until the late 1950s. The pivotal moment was Miles Davis's 1958 recording, which established the tune as a favorite among modern jazz musicians and led to its now enduring popularity in the jazz repertoire. This tune is typically performed in a 32-bar form, most commonly described as ABAC, or it can be called ABAB2, because the B section kind of repeats but kind of changes, rather than the more common AABA form that so many other standards utilize. The A sections are especially notable for the use of what's called a pedal point. A pedal point is a sustained or repeated note, most often in the bass, that continues while the harmony above it changes, sometimes creating dissonance as new chords move against that constant note. The pedal point usually starts as a chord tone, so it's consonant with the harmony, and then becomes a non-chord tone and creates dissonance with the harmony, and then shifts and resolves back to consonance when the harmony returns to match the pedal point. That's a very common way that this technique is used. This technique is named after the organ's pedal keyboard, which allows the player to hold a note for an extended period, and it is commonly used to create tension, excitement, or a sense of grounding in a piece of music. Pedal points are most frequently found in the tonic, so the first scale degree, or the dominant, the fifth scale degree, but they can appear in any other note as well. Specifically, the first 7 bars are played over a sustained pedal tone, usually E flat, because that's the key that this tune is often played in. So E flat in this tune, the pedal point is the root E flat, which creates this distinctive harmonic foundation, and the pedal point allows for rich harmonic superimposed harmonies, and that is one of the hallmarks of this composition. As the harmonies move around, you'll hear, and I'll teach you about that in the lesson. The harmonic language of On Green Dolphin Street is sophisticated, I think, because of this. It's blending kind of modal elements in the A section with more functional and diatonic rooted harmony in the B sections, and those B sections are featuring regular uses of the altered dominant chord, so it's great practice for that. Let's dive in and learn the melody to On Green Dolphin Street and pay special attention to that pedal point in the A sections, which gives this tune much of its unique character. Now I'll play you the melody with guitar tab and notation on the screen. I encourage you to practice along with this demonstration as you're working on the melody. Here it is. just want to point out a couple things about the melody to analyze it for us. This can help us learn it better and remember it better and all of that. The main part of the melody, the A section that is, this descending line is really kind of the backbone of the melody. I like to just think of this as the crux of what the melody is doing, and then those embellishments are just that. They're just ornamentations around it. And I think that's kind of cool to recognize that. And the other thing is that every note in the A section is a chord tone. So this is the root of E flat major 7, then 7, 5, 3. So it's just outlining an arpeggio of E flat major 7. Then it goes to flat 7 of E flat minor 7. Then it goes to 5 of F7. Then it goes to 5 of E major 7. And then 5 of E flat major 7. And that little arpeggio there is just 5, 3, 1. So 1, 7, 3, 5, flat 7, 5, 5, 3, 1, 5. All chord tones of the chords in that A section. And the B section, I just want to point out that the chords here, this is F minor 7 to B flat 7 altered. And just during that measure of the altered chord, right, starting on that note, these 4 notes are from the B flat altered scale. So just the harmony of B flat altered is truly harmonizing the melody as it should be. It's not just like an altered chord for the sake of making it altered, which you can do any time to just make something crunchy, and you can play altered over any dominant chord, but this is truly the correct harmony for the melody as it's written. And then the other thing about the bridge is just anytime there is a sequence, which means the exact same idea modulated somewhere else, either in the key or to a new key, I just wanted to explicitly acknowledge that that is a sequence that is repeating the same idea, a minor third up, and that's why it's so strong sounding and so catchy sounding. Something to do in your improvisations or your composing if you write. And then lastly, this final conclusion of the melody. Earlier in the series, we did Someday My Prince Will Come. Well, that is so similar to Someday My Prince Will Come. And what we're doing here at the end, even just the last 3 notes, that's landing on the 5 of the key and the 5 of that E flat chord. And so it's going 7, 6, 5 of the major key. And that's it's kind of like a 3, 2, 1 sound, but landing on the 5. Well, Someday My Prince Will Come does that same thing. Or it goes. So similar, right? So I like to acknowledge similarities between standards and tunes and repertoire, and that helps it all feel more like a language than a mystery. It helps it feel like it's all connected and coming from the same place, because it is. Now I will play you 2 different versions of the chord shapes for this tune. I'll play each chord once each time a chord changes, and I'll show you the chord shape diagrams on the screen as I play. I encourage you to practice along with these demonstrations as you're working on getting the chords down. First, I'll play you the chords using the simplest chord shapes possible. These are often called shell voicings, and they are widely used in jazz. Here's that demonstration. Now I will play you the more common jazz guitar chord shapes for this tune. They have an extra note in them and they fill out the sound a little more. Here's that demonstration. to show you this pedal point comping in the A section and how it's just beautiful voice leading, which means that if each note is a voice, you can try to move them with the minimal amount of movement possible to connect everything together. And that's what people mean when they say voice leading. And this is just so gorgeous to play on the guitar, a little study of its own. If you play this E flat major 7 chord as I'm playing here, 6th fret, 8th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret on the middle 4 strings. We're gonna just play the middle 4 strings here. And then an E flat minor 7 chord. Okay, so I took the 3rd string down to fret 6 and the 2nd string down to fret 7. You have to bar that. Okay, now we're going to play a 3rd inversion F7 chord. We're keeping E flat in the bass the whole time. Okay, this 3rd inversion is really cool. This is fret 6, 7, 5, 6, and this is the flat 7, 3, 5, and 1 of F7. The flat 7 is in the bass. And then we're going to do a 3rd inversion E major 7 chord. Very crunchy, really cool to do. This is just like a triad up here. It's like a C shape if you think of like cage system. 3, 5, 1 of E, but then the 7 is right here. So this is fret 6, 6, 4, 5. For 3rd inversion, E major 7, and then you can go to E flat major triad, works the best for the voice leading. But everything is moving with this minimal connected movement, which is just so fun. This one is tricky to get to, but worth working on. And that is just a little arrangement that's just asking to be played on the guitar. Something to study and work on, so you're keeping that pedal tone in the bass there. I just wanted to share that. It's a great way to play those chords, especially if you're not playing with a bass player. And then if you're wondering about playing an altered chord, the altered part of the chord is just adding a sharp 5 or a flat 5 or a sharp 9 or a flat 9. So on the guitar, I'll usually play one of those somewhere. So here's a sharp 5 right here. It's not flat 13 in this case, even though that can also be flat 13. The difference is that if I'm thinking of it as sharp 5, then natural 5 is not here. It doesn't exist here. So I'm not going to play it with single note playing. It means that the 5 has been taken. It's sharped. So there's also a flat 5 there. You could play that. There's also, you could play very cool voicing here. This is flat 7, 3, sharp 5, sharp 9. You can lower that, and that's flat 9. You can lower that top note again, and that's the root. All altered voicings. Just wanted to kind of share some of those with you. One of the secrets to better and more interesting comping is just simply knowing more voicings and more inversions of chords. If you want to go deeper with chord voicings and comping by methodically learning all of your chord inversions for the most important 7th chords all over the fretboard, then check out my course called Jazz Comping Mastery. You can go to soundguitarlessons.com/JCM to check that out. And there's also a link in the description. Next, I will show you 2 different options for the scales you need to be able to improvise and solo over this tune, over the entire chord progression. And I will demonstrate and show diagrams of all of the scales in one specific overlapping position on the fretboard. Let's do a little analysis first. All right, let's do a little analysis here for our complete scale options that we can use to improvise over this chord progression. The complete scales are this analysis that I like to do where I say, if we actually look at what every chord comes from, that every chord actually comes from a scale, what scale would accurately do that? Now, in reality, you don't have to play all of those, but it's great to know them and practice them. We'll also do a simplified scales version in a second. That's way easier, but this addresses the changes precisely if you want to go for this. So let's look at this for a second. E flat major, we're in that key. Yes, just E flat major scale, that's that chord. Then we go to, on that same chord, the E flat minor 7 chord, and E flat Dorian is the scale that I would say you probably would hear more naturally and sounds right to me, basically. Why is that, other than just going by ear, which you can always do? Because if this is an E flat minor 7 chord, you might think, oh, I'll play E flat Aeolian. If you know what that is, it's just the natural minor scale. So why would we not do major scale, then natural minor scale? You absolutely could. If you like the sound of that, then you're golden. However, one way to think about this when you're thinking about the scale is just to say, well, what notes have to change for the chord and what notes stay the same from the previous scale? So the Dorian scale is a minor scale with a natural 6. and the Aeolian scale or the natural minor scale has a flat 6. That's the difference between those two. That's it. Just that one note, a half step difference. So the natural 6 exists in this scale, and it also exists in this scale. So that allows for, I think, the melodies that are coming out, and I think it allows for them to just overlap and sound more natural rather than more. It's already quite a stark change to go between these two. So let's keep common notes as much as we possibly can. So that's a little tip for any analysis of any chord. If you're in a parent key, a key center, you know what you're in, and then some chord outside of the key comes in. We'll just say, well, what notes have to change because of that chord, and what can I keep otherwise? Just the same as the parent scale that I was in before. So that's going to happen again here in a couple places. So now we go to this F7 chord, which is the 2 chord as a dominant 7 chord. And once again, if we keep all the common notes and just change that chord to have a major third instead of a minor third, which it usually would have, well, then you get the F Mixolydian scale. So that is the 5th mode of the major scale. And same thing here, E major 7. Why would you not just play E major, the scale? Well, the Lydian version of this scale it's like a major scale with a sharp 4. Well, that sharp 4 is a common note lining up with the same thing as the natural 5 of this. So it's a common note, which really helps melodies feel more connected. So to my ear and to my taste, the Lydian sound when a major chord is a half step above resolving down, which is a relatively common resolution. Major 7 chord going down a half step to a resolution off into another major 7 chord. The Lydian scale there, a half step up and then down to the major scale is kind of the way that I prefer to see that. I also have the major scales, the parent scales underneath here. So that's the same as you could just think D flat major instead of E flat Dorian. You could just think B flat major instead of F Mixolydian. You could just think B major instead of E Lydian. So if you're interested in kind of the reason behind these things, that's why I share all of that. But also this is just here for you to just say, okay, great, I'm just going to practice switching these scales when the chords change. And that's amazing practice. Here we have a minor 2-5, in which case we want to play the harmonic minor scale that it is going to. So 2-5, what's the 1 going to be? It's going to be F minor. So F harmonic minor is the scale there. Very quick change there. You'll see that we can ignore those as well with the simplified scales. But again, we're saying what scale does all of these chords actually come from? Okay, then we have a 2-5-1 in E flat major. So we have E flat major the scale, E flat major the scale, but the 5 in this 2-5-1 is altered. It's just straight up an altered chord, which means it has a sharp 5 and a flat 5 and a sharp 9 and a flat 9. It's all messed up other than the chord tones, the root, the 3rd and the 7th. Those have to be what they are to make it dominant 7. Everything else is mangled and altered. So perfect opportunity to work on the actual altered scale. This is the same thing as B melodic minor or B flat altered. So you can think of the altered scale as a half step up from the root of the chord. You can think of that as the root of the melodic minor scale, and you're playing altered. I have 2 videos on the altered scale that explain it really thoroughly on this channel. Just search for those on my channel or even Google them. I think you'll find them if you want to know more about the altered scale. So 2-5-1 with the altered scale in there. You can do that anytime ever on basic 2-5-1s anytime. Once you get used to being able to use the altered scale, you might like the taste of it just getting a little bit out there outside of being so perfectly in the pocket or too diatonic. So this is just great practice to do, slow down the tempo, create a loop for yourself, practice 2-5-1 with the altered scale in between there. Fantastic. Here's another minor 2-5, and this is a 2-5-1 in a A flat minor. So therefore A flat harmonic minor is what that is briefly. And then we have precisely the same thing we did up here, but in another key, 2-5-1, but the 5 is altered. So same thing. 2 is Dorian, or you can just think of it as G flat major. Notice I labeled them differently. Either way, whatever gets you there. The parent scale, altered scale in between. Same deal there. Then we have 2-5 into E flat major, and we have this C section of the tune here, E flat major, and then we just have a bunch of minor 2-5s, and we know what to do for those. Minor 2-5 pointing to C harmonic minor. Then we just have C minor. I'm thinking of that as the 6 of the parent scale, so we're back to E flat major. Then we have a minor 2-5, so G harmonic minor into the G minor chord there. And then we just have 2-5-2-5-1. And this is really like a 3-6-2-5-1. Why is it not why would you call it 2-5-2-5-1? Because that is dominant 7 there. So it's 3-6-2-5-1 with the 6 being dominant 7. You'll see how that's relevant when we simplify the scales, but when we are doing the complete scales, we can say, oh yeah, this is from F major for our measure, and this is then going back to E flat major. So 2-5 in F major, then 2-5-1. But really it's like a 3-6-2-5-1, which means you could, we're going to talk about this in a second, you could just play all E flat major there. So thorough explanation, take what you want, leave the rest. You take what's valuable to you here, but just full analysis, because this is so necessary and so difficult to, I think, find the quote unquote correct answers for what the heck am I supposed to play over what chord. I'm trying to help you with that information in this series. So let's go ahead and demonstrate improvising with exactly those scales on the guitar in roughly the 5th position, so you can hear what it sounds like and see a demonstration. Before I improvise with them, let me show you all the scales just up and down with scale diagrams on the screen, so you can use those to learn them if you want to. There's a ton of scales in this one. The first one is E flat major. I'll play all of them just up and down in one position from lowest note to highest note and back. This is E flat major. This is E flat Dorian or D flat major. This is F mixolydian, or same as B flat major. This is E Lydian, or same as B major scale. The next scale is F harmonic minor, and it is this. And then we have B flat altered scale. Next is A flat harmonic minor. Next is A flat Dorian. That's the same thing as the G flat major scale, which we're also going to play because I have them listed as those two ways in the sheet. This is D flat altered scale. This is that G flat major scale. We already did that one, so I did a little faster. This is C harmonic minor. This is G harmonic minor. And this is F major scale. If you're up for it, it's great and really fun to practice changing all those scales in that detailed way. If you're not and you're overwhelmed by that, don't worry. That's why we're going to water it down. And I shouldn't say water it down because that makes it sound like a negative thing. We're going to simplify it in a good way and be able to improvise it without needing to do all those. So you have this intense kind of training you can choose to do when you're up for it, when you're ready for it. It's excellent for your playing and your ears and everything. And you can just actually play real music until you're ready to do that, instead of practicing for years before you can just play through a song. So let's move on to the next section. So here's that soloing example using all of those scales over on Green Dolphin Street. Here's our simplified scale sheet. Now what we're wanting to do is simplify the scales to get to playing a real version of the tune as soon as possible. And we want to think about, does the scale actually have to change for various portions of the harmony? Well, there are instances of harmony where you just can't ignore it. It truly is kind of modulating momentarily, and other places the harmony is just like this here, just a little harmonic embellishment or targeting that you can't ignore. So what is truly changing the sound of the key center, even if it's brief, and what is just a kind of embellishment adding on to the harmony? So these first 6 measures here, you cannot skate over that. It's changing so much. You really have to address the fact that it turns to that minor chord there, and then it goes here, and then it goes here. So that's great practice to do that. Even in the simplified scale version, you have to change a lot, and this can be played at a fast tempo sometimes too. But then something like this, any minor 2-5-1 that is just a quick embellishment leading to kind of creating tension for a moment, that sounds fantastic in the background behind just playing a parent scale, right? You can play some melodic idea just purely with E flat major, and this is going to happen underneath you, and it's going to sound great. Now, do you want to maybe sometimes target the major third of this chord to give it that kind of leading tone sound to here? Sure, absolutely. Do whatever you want to sound like, but it works great to just do this. You could not even play these if you want to. A lot of jazz harmony is just adding these 2 5s in front of things all over how can we make the harmony feel like it's moving more? And that's why so many jazz standards, the melody itself is sometimes just totally diatonic in a key, and then the harmony feels like it's moving all around in all these other keys, because it's just using the harmony to create these kind of 2-5 tension moments into whatever sections of the chords that actually come from the scale. So you can just play E flat major here, and in the simplified scales version of improvising, usually, almost all the time, the difference, we're only ever off by like one note being 1/2 step, right? So this chord here only has 1 note, 1/2 step difference. The scale that it comes from is only that much different, just a tiny bit from this parent scale here. So, okay, you have 6 of the notes that are actually perfectly correct for where this chord comes from, and then there's only that one different one. And if you play that one different one, it's who cares? It doesn't sound that bad. It actually happens to be the sharp 9 of this chord, if you want to think of it that way. So just saying, and in the end, you want to just be playing and expressing yourself, right? So the major scale can be used completely on almost any tune. And then we go here, and same kind of deal here. Do we need to address the altered? No, we don't need to. The harmony behind it will sound really cool and crunchy, and you can still play something here. That is just within the major scale. Now, what this brings up is that the melody is paramount over the harmony. The melody is what you think a tune, a song is the melody, and then you harmonize it, right? It's not the chords first and then the melody. So if you play a strong melodic idea with phrasing or some kind of melodic sequence even, or a pattern, or something that is catchy, or something that just feels alluring melodically, it is absolutely going to overpower what's happening underneath it. You play something nice here, that all connect together as an idea, it's not going to sound at all like, why didn't you address the altered chord? No, it's going to sound great. It's going to be fantastic. You can address the altered chord when you want that sound another time. I think in our studious practicing mode, we practice all of this stuff really kind of academically, and then we do also actually practice letting go and just playing music, so we can see how it all works out, figure out what we need to keep working on. So here's another minor 2-5 that we just skate over, totally fine. Look at this, awesome, E flat. And then same thing here, 2-5-1, that's altered, ignore the altered, so you just get to play all that scale. So it becomes so much more accessible, right? This tune, yes, there's still quite a bit of changes, but if you're struggling with some of those, you get to take them away and say, yeah, I could play this. I could play this at a gig. Like next week, let's do it. Instead of, oh no, I need to master altered scale and changing really fast for a measure at a time for like 3 more months, which it does take that kind of time. It takes a lot of work and time consistently to be able to do it fluently and actually improvise. So be patient, but get to playing a real tune as soon as possible. And then, yeah, we get to just do all E flat major here because this is the 2 of E flat. Then we have this 2-5 that we can skate over. This is the 6 of E flat. Great. Then we have this 2-5 that we can skate over. And then we have this 3-6-2-5-1. The 6 is dominant 7. We just ignore that. That's 1 note, 1/2 step difference. Boom, you get to play all E flat major scale for the end of that there. So again, it becomes much more accessible. That's our simplified version of the scale. I always want to demonstrate for you to prove it, to say, yeah, it works. Here's an example of how it sounds. So let's do that. I will demonstrate improvising with exactly those scales, exactly with the scale scale forms that I showed you on the guitar. And here's that example. You want to do whatever it takes to just get through the tune as soon as possible, to be able to play a complete version of the tune using whatever minimal information is needed. I actually think the musical results of this are very cool. But then the next step after that is beginning to target the chord changes in more detail. If you want to go deeper on jazz guitar lead improvisation and master outlining and targeting chord tones in your solos with a methodical system that I developed over many years, then check out my course called Nail the Changes. You can check it out at soundguitarlessons.com/NTC, or you can use the link that's in the description. Here's your internalization tip for this lesson. This is a little tip in every lesson in this series to help you internalize jazz standards and really learn them deeply and not just play them on the surface. This tip is for your sense of time, and it's just one. If you had to do one thing for your sense of time, it would be playing with the metronome with the click on the off beats. Other than playing with people and playing along with recordings, that stuff helps your time immensely. But as far as a kind of a drill-based kind of exercise thing that really does does wonders for your time, you want to play with the click on the off beats, so it's every and of every beat. So if you're working on a tune, you want to try to play the tune, the melody, with a click on the off beat. So I'll do this at 130 beats per minute, just so you can hear that for a second and just let it be a big challenge. And if it's really hard for you, then that means you have the most to gain from this. If it's not that hard for you, then it's great to just kind of make sure you can do it on a tune that you're learning deeply and then move on. Here it is 130. So there's the click, and then I'm thinking of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. One and two and three and four and. Okay, hear how that works? I counted a couple spaces there just because there was such a long whole note. But the trick is when there are whole notes like that and you're practicing this, the whole challenge is, can you still feel it and just hear it as the offbeats? You know you're doing this right, or you know you have internalized this skill. If you're practicing this a bunch, you pause, take a little breather, and the metronome's still going, and you can hear it and feel it. You're just internally, you're feeling that on the offbeats. This is amazing because if all we give ourselves is the strong beat, we're just giving ourselves the most obvious beat, so we don't have a sense of all the in-between time. But if we give ourselves the offbeat, the beat in between the strong beat, then we're forced to feel internally really solidly where that strong beat is, and it tightens up our sense of time. So doing that with a melody of any kind, and really any exercise, but a melody is great because there's the rhythmic variations in the melody itself will force you to really get this down. So that is your tip for this lesson. I'll give you my guitar listening recommendation for this song in 1 second, but first you can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression lead sheet, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music because that's not in the public domain, but you can easily learn the melody from this video. Just use the link in the top of the description to join and support and get all of those extra resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. If you want a jazz guitar listening recommendation for On Green Dolphin Street, I highly recommend Grant Green's version on his album The Complete Quartets with Sonny Clark. There is a link to a playlist of all of my listening recommendations from this whole series in the description. Make sure you listen to that or listen to a different version that you love as you are working on this song. And make sure you're subscribed because I can't wait to see you in my next lesson. I post a lesson video every single Tuesday. I've been doing that for 6 years now, and I haven't missed a week of doing it. So subscribe for all the future lessons. Hit that like button and leave a comment to let me know if you liked this lesson. It really makes a difference and it helps the video reach more people. Check out the description for all the links I've mentioned and how you can support the channel. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. Take care and happy practicing.